I know it actually streams really nicely too. So, hey guys, trying to get on live right now. So, thank you for joining us. And I don't want Audacity. Oh God. Well, Audacity records this, right? So then, what I gotta do? Just press record. Okay. Is it picking everything up? Okay. So now I put that down. I put this down, and then I go back over here. And press connect because it is 7:01 right now. All right, we are here on the Persia Sound Show. We was having a little technical difficulties, but we making it happen. Hopefully, you've been tuning in since about 3 o'clock. We actually were outside of the Uptown Theater, doing a live broadcast with some of our personalities for Uptown Radio, WJYN 98.5 FM. So, with that said, I have my first guest of the night, and his name is Frederick Jones L. Dupree, shout out to Social Therapy Magazine. I've known him for years. He's always been a great support. And he actually referred Frederick to me. And I said, that's interesting to actually, have a Moorish American here on the radio station, since I'm always a seeker of knowledge. And I actually have some questions about, so I'm actually happy that the universe brought us together in some type of way. So now I can ask some questions to somebody that actually lives the life. A friend of mine actually became a Moor, so I just see them on social media. I haven't been able to sit down and talk to them, and I think I had a friend in the past that became one too, but he couldn't get into too many details. Every time I called him, he was always busy and hustling. He had a couple businesses. So with that said, I want to welcome Frederick Jones L. Clap it up. Hey! All right. So hello. Thank you so much for coming out. So I'd just like you to introduce yourself so people can get a great idea about who you are, and go into some interview questions.
Yeah, true indeed. Well, first, thank you for having me, sister. I'm Frederick Jones Ill, and I am a member of the lawfully chartered Moorish Science Temple of America. I actually hail from, or rather where I domicile at the current moment, is Atlantic County, New Jersey. I was brought up between East Camden, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where we are right now. I've been a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America since about 2016 is when I actually officially proclaimed. So I've been a card-carrying member about 4 years. However, I've been in the science since 2009, so about 11 years. And I'm actually a member of a temple that's in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. But that temple has standing with a branch temple in Chicago, Illinois. So that's kind of how that works. So.
Okay, so what exactly is a Moor? You're saying science. I wasn't quite sure if it was a religion or right. Just an intellectual group, because I know every time I've ever seen a Moor, at least through YouTube, because I don't know that many, they're usually showing them at the courts trying to, be a lawyer or something like that. So I wasn't quite sure. No, I'm serious. I wasn't quite sure exactly what you guys represent. I didn't know if it was close to the Israelites. I didn't know if it was like Islamic or if that, because also you gave me some links. You gave me some links as far as So well, thank you so much for tuning in. The Persia Sound Show on Uptown Radio, WJYN 98.5 FM. We've had some technical difficulties today, but it's pretty cool. You can check us out on YouTube. So if you missed the first probably where are we at now? 5 minutes, which is good. We didn't kill that much time. You can check us out on YouTube if you wanted to get the full introduction about Frederick Jones L. I have somebody that is a follower of the Moorish Sciences, and the universe brought us together through Dupree, which is Social Therapy Magazine. So with that said, yes, and so I just lost train of thought as far as what I was going to ask him. But
I can tell you what you were asking.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
If you can do that.
So you were asking, what is more science, and you were also saying that you were saying,
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was close to like being Israelite,
yeah,
or was it, because when I watched some of the podcasts and stuff on YouTube that you sent me,
it was debate.
Yeah, it was the debates. But the thing is that
Me and Young Pharaoh.
well, I didn't watch that one. I watched the other one. But my whole thing was that I was listening to you, and you were saying, Allah. So that's why I didn't know if being Moorish, it was an Islamic like denomination or something like that.
Let me explain that.
Okay,
so
thank
first,
you.
all right. So first, to answer what you were asking before we started having difficulties, because you were asking, is the More Science Temple of America a religion?
Yes.
Is it a thing where it's just a school of thought where Moors are in the courts trying to establish things? Because you mentioned that. So first and foremost, to address that, the Moorish Science Temple of America, organized in the year 1925 in Cook County, Illinois, was originally founded as a civic organization. All right, founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. About 2 years later, in 1928, he came back and said that the work was largely religious. So he added a religious affidavit, changing the complexity of the organization. But it still had a civic complexity. So it is a religious organization, but civics is still something that we deal with. And we know that religion and civics, which is law, which is a citizen's standing in a government in which he or she lives, go hand in hand. Like, you don't have religious freedoms unless the law establishes it. Mm-hmm. Like, you do, but you don't. Like, you can't defend it if you don't know the laws that was put in place to protect it. Mm-hmm. So this is what Noble Drew Ali's ideology or thinking was. So as far as Moors in court, trying to establish whatever it is that they're trying to establish. See, there's different Moorish groups. So you have the Moorish Science Temple of America, you have the Murakis Society, you have something called
but it started with Noble Drew Ali. Is that what you're saying? He started. Okay, all right.
So and then you have offshoot groups. So I'm going to say this to make it quick because I don't want to.
No, yeah. It's fine. We got an hour. You can talk.
All right. So for the most part, members of a lawfully chartered temple aren't in the courts as much as ones who are a part of some of the various offshoot groups. So I'll say that. Mm-hmm. So usually the ones that you're seeing on YouTube or wherever else, usually, not always, but usually are not members of a lawfully chartered temple.
Really?
But you do have members of lawfully chartered temples like myself who can get down when it comes to that as well. But for the most part, it's usually guys who are not in the temple. Not only that, but they have a disdain for the temple. It's usually those ones who are usually doing things with the courts.
So why do you think they have a disdain? Because the temple is more of a religious situation versus just about the civic actions and duties?
Well, I think from what I've seen firsthand, from what I have firsthand knowledge of, and from what those who I have met in passing have said, it's that the civic portion of what Noble Drew Ali has been buried by the tainted leadership, and they're only pushing the religious portion of what he brought.
Oh, okay.
So if I had to put my finger on it, based on what I've seen and based on my conversations with others, that's what it is. Okay. But my response to that with these guys is don't abandon what Noble Drew Ali brought just because you have issues with those in leadership. Because there's a difference between the organization and those that's in the seat. Yeah. The teachings are what they are. But those that's in the seat, maybe they may not be navigating the way that Noble Drew Ali brought it. So.
And by it being that, I don't know that many more, so obviously it's somewhat categorized as alternative religion. If you don't have a lot of temples to go to, you kind of, you got to start your own thing because you're not in agreement with the person that's in charge. So,
sure.
Everything always breaks down to, when you're dealing with people, everybody always has their own opinion, but I do like that whole aspect. Now, with that said, with I think Nick Cannon was like trying to become a Moor or something like that. I'm not quite sure with that, but he's actually kind of a cross as far as having certain people on there like Professor Griff. Whether you agree with what they're doing, but he also had some really. Then he had a Jewish guy on there, so it's very intellectual, than religious stuff that he's touching on, which you don't see with somebody that came out of kind of like the Nickelodeon age.
I got
You know what I'm saying? So that was very interesting. I don't get a chance to watch a lot of his. I only can see clips because you're doing so much and you have to watch other people's videos and whatever. So if I can get a chance to watch a little piece, at least I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So with that said, I know that you were stating like you were trying to do more interviews outside of your community. And why is that? Is that because you are looking to recruit, or you just want to get the word out, or you have something that you would like to speak about?
Yeah, true indeed. So first, I'm definitely not trying to recruit, and here's the reason why. I think when you're seeking where you want to go in life, as far as what lessons or what school of thought or what religion, etc., you want to subscribe to, what navigation map you want to use. That's a personal thing. So it's not something you could force or suppress on somebody. Now, if someone who already, like if the vibration is already leading them this way, then I can advise them. But I'm definitely not looking to recruit because it's bigger than just you telling somebody something. Mm-hmm. It's something that they have to feel. Like it's a vibration. And then not only that, we know that there's a lot of slander and infighting amongst our people when it comes to the different schools of thought. Mm-hmm. So you could be talking to somebody and they may have heard something about the Moors, and it's just totally not the case. But they have preconceived notions. So you're up against that. And I think people kind of look at religion as something that was meant to bind you or to suppress you. Mm-hmm. So for those reasons, I don't recruit. Mm-hmm. I am looking to branch out and I guess and intercourse with platforms outside of the conscious community, simply because I think those in consciousness probably aren't seen enough on platforms that could reach like a broader audience.
Yeah.
And I think the conscious community has been made to look like a pariah, I guess. These are these guys over there, they talking some stuff that we don't deal with. Mm-hmm. And over here, this is the real world. And I think because they're not seeing enough of us over here. Mm-hmm. So that, what I mean? So I want to rep. And then too, in the conscious community, it's a lot of politics. Not saying it's not politics over here, but over there is real cliquish. Who do you know?
Yeah.
I'm not down with that school of thought, so I'm not going to have the Moors on unless they come through this. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of that. So.
Well, I'm open because I have no idea about the whole community. So when he actually, told me that you were interested,
yes.
I was like, okay. Yeah. I actually wanted to question somebody that lives that life. You know what I mean? Because that was always a question for me. I wasn't sure if this was like a charity civic type of thing, or like, you don't know, and then was it like close to Shriners? I mean, there's so many things. It's symbols. Well, listen, you kind of have the hat like them, so I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But that's a normal question for somebody that's an outsider.
Facts.
You know what I mean? Exactly. So now, if you're able to, I'm able to talk to you, and then, you can maybe see the difference in the hat and how the tassel is. Like it'll be something little like that now the difference when you see it. The same thing with the sheik versus somebody just that's from the Middle East. They think that they're the same person because they're wearing a head wrap, but they're actually two different schools of thought. You know what I mean? Or one is the culture, or the sheiks. I don't know. I didn't dig that deep into it, but from what I know, they're all very positive and stuff that I know about. I mean, there's always factions that want to do something crazy, okay?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, first, I wanted to say when I reached out to Dupree, and I specifically inquired about you, I just like what I saw. Your demonstration looked quality.
Mhm.
I kind of watched something that you were doing. It looked professional. So I'm not just jumping out of the window and stuff. But I actually liked how you were doing it, and I told him that. So yeah. And as far as the Shriners portion,
Oh, that is a part of Moorish then.
so let me go on. No.
That's not?
So let me go into that.
Okay.
So when I said portion, I just meant a portion of what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So ancient Arabic order, nobles of the mystic shrine, Shriners for short, right? They weren't founded until 18. Is it 1893?
Don't ask me.
But it was founded by a European so-called white. Now I'm saying
Really?
so-called white because white is status in law
Hmm.
and isn't a name that belongs to the human family. And a lot of people don't
And that was one of the
get
arguments
those degrees.
that I did watch
Right.
a video that was like that, and he was like, "Well, black and white, that's not really is you know." I was like, "Oh, that makes me think." Well, he did pull out the book and showed me, like,
Yeah.
But what's the part of? Then they say like a Moorish. We actually started the country.
Yeah.
And then
Let me get into
all
that.
right, all right.
So Walter Fleming, who was a master mason from New York, had traveled to North Africa and the Holy Land and France. And we know France had conquered a bit of the Al Maghrib during the late 19th century. So this is why France had this North African culture. When I say the Al Maghrib, I'm talking North Africa, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, Morocco, and Egypt. So he's seen the culture there and the customs. Came back from his voyage or vacation and founded ancient Arabic order, nobles of the mystic shrine, as an imitation or a mockery of medieval Islamic custom and dress that he bear witness to.
Oh.
So founder of the Moorish Science Temple Prophet Noble Drew Ali is not imitating Shriners. He's saying to you, this is the customs and culture of your ancient foremothers and forefathers, and just be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But being that the Shriners was found first, it seems that Noble Drew Ali is imitating them. But actually, Walter Fleming and others who was around him during that time, he's actually imitating original people who are now classed as Negro, Black, and colored. And lastly, the Shriners used to do their parades in blackface. So,
Really?
yes. So if
I think I did see something like that. And did you even with the when we do our parade every New Year's?
the mummers,
I think when I was they was like not until like almost like 1985 they had stopped doing blackface. It was crazy. I was like, really? I would that
very
wow.
good, sister, very good. You're connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I was going to say. If you're what's being imitated, why join an order like that and imitate yourself?
Yeah.
Instead of just being who you are, who you were, who your ancient foremothers and forefathers were. This is what Noble Drew Ali's thinking was.
Yeah.
But not everybody is going to grasp that. So this is why I said early on that I'm not looking to recruit, because it's bigger than just telling somebody something and then thinking that they're going to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
They have to make the walk.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah. No, I mean it's pretty cool because I mean there's so many different organizations, charities, religions. And then when you start to dissect them as far as denominations are concerned, it gets complicated.
It can
You know what I
get
mean?
complicated.
You know, and as far as dates and history, sometimes my dates usually get mixed up. But I usually know when I know something, I might not know exactly when.
I just remember the year. It's 1871. No, it's 1870, not 1893. So let me correct myself.
Okay.
Ancient Arabic order, nobles of the mystic shrine, that we know as Shriners for short, was founded in 1870. Walter Fleming, New York.
Okay. And you were saying that he was categorized as white, but you're saying that he was black. So are you saying that he was brown skinned,
No,
or did he look white?
All right. It's a very good question. So if he was sitting here right now, he would be what we know today as a white man.
Okay.
But when I said European and that he's not white, I'm saying white is white and black
in America
were statuses in law during the slavery era of time.
Mm-hmm.
So white denoted free person, black denoted those who weren't free.
Yeah.
So technically, with the Reconstruction Amendments, right, which is the 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendments, the 13th Amendment abolished involuntary servitude, not slavery, and I'm going to touch on that, but involuntary servitude. The 14th Amendment gave all those who was in states that was in rebellion during the Civil War, and those who were formerly slaves, citizenship rights, the 14th Amendment. And then the 15th Amendment gave ex-slaves the right to suffrage, which is the right to vote. So in saying all of that, what I'm saying is that after the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendments were passed and ratified, the black and white statuses are no more. Because now you're dealing with free people all across the board, unless they are duly convicted of a crime and then become a slave, which is incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
Then their status goes from
black.
white to black. You got it. Mm-hmm. So black is not this. It's your status, and that's not taught. It's taught that it's a nation or a people from Africa.
Wow.
And it's not so.
And it just became easy. Well, I won't say easier, but it's like what 95% of the black people that were here were slaves. So it just became automatically that it was black, and it just became kind of like a social understanding.
But the black tag was put on them.
Yeah.
It's not something that their ancestors identified with. Of course, in popular culture today, not to muddy the waters.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. And that's valid. Of course, in popular culture today, we're known as black people. Mm-hmm. And if you try and refute that, some confusion could arise. Mm-hmm. But when you trace the root of where the term came from, how it was applied to you, what it means in law, it doesn't denote anything but a person that has lost his or her civil rights, meaning civilian rights, and not civil rights as in Martin Luther King and marching around. But it's not a name that belongs to the human family or to the families of nations. And white doesn't either. But see, our people, when you say that, they think you're trying to take their identity away. Yeah. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to give them equal footing in law with the European so-called white people. Yeah. Because they have a free national trace that goes back to the old world, just like we do. Yeah. And this is the idea behind what Noble Drew Ali taught when we say that we're Moors and not Negroes, blacks, and colored folks. Not to say that we're we're distancing ourselves from our people, because we love our people. But when we say that we're not black, like when we're rejecting the black tag, we're rejecting the brand that the European used to debase you and not rejecting our people. Yes. So I don't think that's talked about as much as it should be. So
no, definitely. I mean, I'm when I get into my nerd moment, and now so much is at your fingertips, and we don't really have access to books the same way that we did before. And it's crazy when I think about like Fahrenheit 451. What was it? The one with
Fahrenheit 9/11?
Yeah, was it 9/11? I thought it was like 451 or something like that.
Is that?
I don't know. Either way,
is that a movie?
Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they burning the books. No, yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
And they're burning the books, and it's like kind of like where we're going now. It's like you can't really trust anything, and then you're easily manipulated because you don't have any outside viewpoints. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
to establish, and it's crazy. It's slowly getting there. But with that said, we are on Uptown Radio, WJYN 98.5 FM, Persia Sound Show, and I have Frederick Jones L on tonight. And the next question I want to ask was about the sovereignty or something like that. But I'm gonna bring it back first. Like, so how did you get involved? And then I don't know. It was a couple things from that interview that I had taken away. Like you were saying, some people was like illegitimate stuff like that because somebody brought you in. But then I was like, so what's the proper way of even joining? And if the way that if it was supposedly somebody else joined illegitimately.
Now, what interview was that? Was that me and Pharaoh's demo or something else?
I didn't really.
Oh, I know what it was. I sent you. I know.
Yeah, it was a guy. He had a really big personality. And he was like rapping in the beginning. I apologize. I don't remember his name. But either way.
That's all right.
Well, let's get to this. I didn't know you and Young Pharaoh had some beef.
So let's touch on what you just touched on first. Okay. And then we'll get to the Young Pharaoh thing. And then I'll touch on the sovereignty. But I'll be brief. I'm not going to be long-winded.
No, that's fine.
So when you talked about one's illegitimacy.
Let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, no problem.
Because I don't know. All right. Hello. Let's see if I'm even doing this right. I think this is the telephone.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Do you hear anything? I don't hear anything. Hello? All right. Well, I guess y'all can't call in. I was trying to work this out.
That was a caller.
I think, but I'm supposed to probably have this on. But anyway, I don't know how to work this today, so I apologize that we can't take these calls. But yeah, go ahead, finish what you're saying.
So when it comes to who's legitimate and who's illegitimate, which I don't know exactly the interview or the dialogue that you were talking about, but we do know that when Noble Drew Ali had passed on in the year 1929 and named a successor, one by the name of E. Miliel, there was ones who wanted to step up and challenge his leadership. So you have different grand bodies of the Moorish Science Temple of America with different corporate names. Like there's the Moorish Science Temple of America, there's the Moorish Science Temple of America Inc., there's the Moorish Science Temple of America Reincarnated, there's the Moorish Science Temple of America 1928. There's the Moorish Science Temple of America 1913.
Well, no, y'all need to get it together. That's too much.
Because a house divided can't stand.
Exactly.
So more than likely, that's probably what I was talking about. But I would have to hear the interview or the demo to know. And to address the sovereignty portion. So you have certain Moors who come from groups, and they push individual sovereignty. Like a person is sovereign. That's not what I push. That's not what the Moorish Science Temple of America, as founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, taught the members to do. However, I'm not in opposition to those who want to navigate that way.
Okay.
But we don't do that, and here's why we don't do that. Here's why I don't personally push that. Because as citizens of the USA, I'm going to say that again because we are citizens of the United States of America. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that, taught that. Flew both flags, the Moorish flag and the flag of the USA, stars and stripes, is because we have a collective sovereignty. And that sovereignty was established in the preamble to the Constitution where it says, we the people, those first three words. So it's a collection of souls. It's a collective sovereignty. Now, this is a government founded by the people for the people. Mm-hmm. Now, one person can speak for that sovereignty, but that one person is not sovereign on his or her own, if that makes sense to you. So you can stand up for the sovereignty, but you're not
sovereignty of Moorish Americans. Is that what you're saying?
No. When I say sovereign, where we, the citizens of the USA, have a collective sovereignty. Yes. This is our government, the people's government, and we designate who we want to serve. Just like it's election season, so we're voting. So
it's between different between Republican and Democratic.
No. So the USA is a democratic republic. All right. So let me just touch on that. A Republican form of government is a government where ones are designating those to do things for them.
Yeah.
A democracy is a rule by the majority. So this is a Republican form of government, but it's a democracy too. So it's both. It's not one or the other.
No, I do understand it's both, because when this stuff started happening, and especially with the pandemic, I was going down so many rabbit holes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not right.
The Trump issues, the Bidens, the Democrats. I didn't see everything. He's supposed to be a time traveler.
Green Party.
I even the Black Lives Matter. Is it real? Is it not? Is it? It's a lot to take in, but for me, it was like it's exciting at the same time, and it's like, wow, it's like we're kind of involved in our own movie to a certain extent. We have no idea what's going to happen. Usually, things can be predictable, and you're like, okay. Well, if Trump doesn't get into office, you know his people gonna be upset. So it's about to pop off. And then the people that's for Black Lives Matter with the Democrats credit stuff like that, then it might be about to pop off with that too. So it's if Trump gets in, so it's like I don't know who, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a very exciting and scary and worrisome time at this particular junction.
Yes, true indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me say this last part about the sovereignty thing that I didn't finish. So again, one individual is not sovereign on his or her own. Mm-hmm. Only nations are sovereign. And nations are made up of the citizens, plural, So we have a collective sovereignty together. This is a government by the people, for the people, not to repeat myself. But this is what the preamble to the Constitution says. And we designate those that we want to serve. A democracy means majority rules. A republic is designating those to act for you. So the power is with us, not with the elected officials. But our people are sleeping so bad, we think it's
the Republican, but it's not. It's really
no. We think that they have the power and we don't. So
yes.
So the sovereignty is a collective sovereignty again, and one person can speak for that sovereignty when they're petitioning the judicial branch of government for redress. Like if you're suing somebody, if you're called to answer as a defendant, you can address these issues in court, which is the judicial branch of government. But that one person isn't sovereign on his or her own, if that makes sense. So.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all interesting to me.
It can be confusing because it's a lot
to go over. You just told me it's 12 denominations underneath one.
Not 12 exactly, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like underneath a whole civic duty / religious, depending on what group you decide to join, and we don't know, and it might be something as slight as this person is reincarnated but not, and then you believe in this person and that. It's like, oh,
gosh.
Are you? Yeah, it's like it's crazy. I mean, when you break down the Christian religions, they can get a little crazy too.
Yeah, they have denominations too. But the thing of it is, the reason why there's different sects, because I won't say denominations in the MST of A because the teachings are the same. But when it comes to different denominations and other, I guess, schools of thought, usually there's a variation in the teachings. As far as the more science temple goes, we all have the same lessons. But the reason you have splits is because of ego, man and his ego.
Yeah, I mean that's what it sounds.
Follow me. Why you with him?
But you know what? When you start dealing with intellectual people, then it becomes more about power than it really is about anything else. It just naturally happens that way. When people think that they're smarter or know more, then they want people to believe in their direction. I mean that's just a natural thing. And then men. You're right. They're born to lead. They're supposed to protect. They need to be in charge, So now you're dealing with the alpha situation. So I mean, I could definitely just see all of that really happening. Only especially when you're dealing with thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because people can read the same passage and get a whole totally different interpretation on it. So it is interesting as far as in that respect. So what else did I get from the interview? Is there anything else that you want to? I know you did speak about some music or something like that you had. Now I won't be playing it tonight, guys, but you can go to my Persia Sound. Persia Sound Instagram. You can see the flyer, and you can click on the link to go directly to his page on Instagram, and then you can find out more information about him. But yeah, so your music obviously is positive and thought provoking.
Yeah, definitely. So I released my sophomore effort to iTunes on September the 4th, and I titled it Jewel of the West Nile, simply because we're here in the Western Hemisphere, and we're the jewels of the Almighty. If you ask me, I'll say that, our people. And the jewel is something sacred, right? Jewels, something valuable. And I said West Nile because the Nile River here in the West, which there's multiple, but you could say the Delaware River, the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, you know what I mean? And we know life began around a water source. We've always lived up and down a water source. In the motherland, here on this continent, all over the planet. So I found that title fitting, Jewel of the West Nile. It has 7 songs. I felt 7 was appropriate enough. I didn't want to do no more. I felt like I would mess the vibe up if I just went further.
Yeah.
So and I like it. I spent a lot of time on it. I was real tedious with everything. The production's great, and the lyrics are decent. It's not bubblegum rap. I'm not using profanity all over the record. I'm not calling our people, out of their names. I'm not promoting dead culture. And so.
Okay. Now, how long have you been an artist?
So I've been an artist actually since I was 16. I actually had a record deal. I used to be in a group called Scrolls, This is when I was 16, and we had a deal with a label called Bootleg Records out of High Nella, New Jersey.
I like that bootleg record.
But, we had issues.
They just let you know we already gonna take all your stuff, right?
Yeah, and that was in like '96, and many of us were underage, like myself, so we couldn't get everybody's parent or guardian to kind of
come together,
go ahead with the contract. So it fell through. But I've been an MC since then, and I didn't record my first project until 13.
Okay.
But I put it out in 19, and then the second one I just put it out this year.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that.
Okay.
But I did demos and other things, but I didn't seriously say I'm going to sit down and do this.
Yeah.
I was like, well, into my 30s, it's crazy. So
yeah, no, that's fine. You know, creativity never dies, and I think no matter what age, you should definitely, you know, put your passion out. Yeah. So with that said, with you doing that, what is the sound of your music? Like, did you take trap beats and want to put some intellectual, you know, thought-provoking stuff over it, or are you doing like a golden hip hop situation, or do you have like reggae and world beats or something like that, or are you singing ballads? You know?
Yeah. So, good question. So the beats, if I had to tag them or like categorize them, I really don't know what category they would fall into. I probably would say that I choose a lot of beats that have like someone's vocals in the background.
So like a lot of sampling.
Yeah, I would say that.
So more of a
like a soulful, I guess.
Yeah. Who was the guy that who was the guy that passed away that was a big time promoter and he did a lot of samples? Jai.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Jay Digger. Jay Digger, right? Yeah.
You want it, Jay? Oh gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, so is it kind of like that style, like the underground hip hop type of thing?
His name is Jay Dilla.
Yes.
Well, I never heard his stuff, but if it's like that, then yeah. But if I had to compare it, I would probably say more so like. I think the RZA was the first person I heard to do that, to like put like vocals or like a hum or like a hymn in the beat. So
yeah. All right. So more like a Wu-Tang kind of feel.
If I had to label it that way, yeah.
But on a RZA production side.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
You know, like kind of like his beats. So.
Well, you did move around a little bit. You said you lived in Delaware. So you born and raised in Philadelphia.
No. Well, I can't.
Oh, okay.
Well, originally my family, we come from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and East Camden. That's where I grew up till I got to about high school age. And then my mother is a single parent. Of course, she wanted the best for us. So she moved us out to a suburb of the Philadelphia, Camden area, which is a borough of Lindenwold. So I went to like Lindenwold high school age. And then from there, I left and went to California. And then I kind of been on my own since then. Never Delaware, though. Shouts to Delaware. You know, but never Delaware. So. You know, but I came from, you know, over here this way. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about this young Pharaoh, because now I'm gonna have to go look that back up. But I had so much because I have a lot of songs and stuff that I'm doing in and out of the studio, so that's why I only really got to that one interview, and then I looked at your page just to get a gist of you know what you're about.
So you do music.
Yeah, I do. I actually sing. Yeah, mostly. When I first started, I was doing rock music. So, but then you realize like the type of. Yeah, but the people I was, you know, that's a conversation. But yeah,
once you probably do something together.
When you start going into the spiritual aspects, you realize that that's just not, you know. But when you're young and unknowledgeable about yourself, then you know. So anyway,
knowledge, I can tell. I can hear it in you.
I'm learning. You know, I'm definitely learning and growing. I've always been somewhat of an intellectual about things. You know, I had an obsession for a long time of Egyptian culture.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, any and everything I try to read about it, African culture. But it's not about me right now. It's about you. Yeah. So what happened with this whole young Pharaoh situation that you know were talking about? Now I just got onto young Pharaoh through the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So and I look at his growth and the years of him doing the live streaming, because he has like 4 or 5 pages. I seen that obviously within this time is when he exploded, because then he started to change what he was speak about more worldly things instead of community and black spirituality, which is nothing wrong with that. So then I saw that, he's speaking more about, worldly things and all this other stuff that's going on. So I'm definitely going to look at the debate that you guys had. But, how did that come about? I guess he was probably trying to dispute something about the Moorish backgrounds or religious stuff. Yeah, because that's what he's usually always trying to do. Yes. So, so what happened with that?
So here's how that whole thing came about. So one day, like, I'm at home doing what I do, studying, and Dupree had texted me, and it was a YouTube link.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the link, and lo and behold, it's a young Pharaoh video throwing the Moors under the bus. But not only was he throwing the Moors under the bus, because on the internet, the different schools of thought dispute, fight all the time.
Yeah.
But what drove me to reach out to Pharaoh was he was saying, and I quote him, he was saying, get me a Moor on here. Don't bring me the little Moor, bring me the big homie. Bring the big homie, and I'm gonna knock his fez off.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying.
I mean, that sounds like him. Okay.
So I messaged him on Facebook, and I DM'd him on Instagram, and I was like, "You want smoke with the Moors? Let's get it." And I didn't know if I would get a reply, and he replied, and then from there we was talking. And it was cordial too. We wasn't like at odds with each other.
But you know what the funny thing is, because like watching him, so you kind of get a sense of him, and it's crazy because it might have been like 5 or 6 other Moors that hit him up, but you was the one that hit him like a gangster. So he's like, "All right, you the one. I'm gonna talk to you," because the rest of them coming. "Young brother, I just wanted to speak to you about how you're displaying the Moors. We need to come together." He like, "No, I want to talk to this guy. I want to give you smoke. Yeah, let's get it." Yeah, so.
And to Pharaoh's credit, I have to say this. He was very cordial. Mm-hmm. When him and I dialogued back and forth about what was going to be the title of the debate, he was open to what I had to say. He let me promote my music in the beginning of the debate and all of the different grand bodies of the Moorish Science Temple. Like, I did that, and the Moors was still attacking me. You ain't qualified. You ain't in this grand body. You ain't in the real grand body.
Okay, well, did they even approach the situation though?
Feel me? So
that's what I can't stand. It's the same thing with the Ice Cube situation. Ice Cube can't speak for me, but ain't none of y'all step up. Like, what you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
Moors was hating on me. So, to Pharaoh's credit, he let me do that, and we was cordial, even though it was the adversary process.
Yeah,
it was cordial.
He's a competitor, but
and I didn't have any ill will feelings towards him, even though I disputed the false claims that he made, but we did it in love. It wasn't no. I'm mad at you stuff. You see what I'm saying?
No.
So yeah.
So what was one of the topics or the biggest thing that you wanted to dispute that you felt like he was maybe putting out false information?
Truly. So one of the biggest things to me, one of the biggest daggers that I felt literally like a dagger in the back was he showed these pictures from the 1890s, the late 19th century, of King Leopold's reign in the Congo, where King Leopold of Belgium had this military force called the Force Publique, and the Fez was a part of their military uniform, but this force was made up of troops from all over the place: the Congo, British West Africa that we now know as Nigeria, and even some European countries. But he showed these guys in a military uniform wearing the Fez, and he said, "See, these is the Moors enslaving black people." But what he didn't say was this was a joint military coalition put together by King Leopold of Belgium to keep control of the Congo. So it wasn't a Moors versus Congolese. It was a joint coalition force made up of the Congo and other groups to maintain control of the Congo. So that was the biggest thing that I took issue with, because our people they ain't looking beneath the surface.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean? So they see the feds and they like, oh, it's these N words that did this to black people, and that's just simply not the case. And then what he failed to mention was the force publique at that time they was in a conflict with a group called the Arab Zanzibari slave traders. So you had these Arab Zanzibari slave traders and the force publique fighting with each other over the natural resources
Of the Congo.
and people in the Congo.
Yeah. And by it being, it was a coalition force, there was many different colors, and if you just snaps a couple of black people with the fez on that's really from, I don't know, South Africa.
You got it.
Then
and at that Moors.
Yeah, and at that point, I don't think, you know, things were divided between tribes, you know, and separation by language. So they, even though we had the same color, sometimes they didn't view them as the same people.
We do it now with Bloods, Crips, Gangster Disciple, Vice Lord. I'm Sunni, you Shiite. I'm Nation of Islam, you Moor Science Temple. It's not really the same, but it's similar. So it's our nature to be divisive somewhat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just human nature. Human nature always has a bit of competitiveness because it comes from the ego, and people always try to figure out some way to say that I'm better than. You know, it's very rarely which is crazy. I'm rare, but I've always been a big supporter of other people. You know, everybody has some type of ego.
Facts.
But
me too.
It's always listen, everybody's got it. You need that sometimes just to, you know, revamp your mind or get you out of bed or whatever that might be. But I remember when I was doing Miss Ebony Temple, and it was funny, but that was a crazy story because we was all best friends until the day of, and all these girls they was just mean looks, everything. I arrived late because I was making all of my clothes and everything, and I show up and everybody, I'm like, oh, what is going on today? So I ended up sitting with one of the chicks, and she ends up winning first place or whatever. But they already kind of set up, they wanted her to win anyway because they had read it in a piece of paper, and it was like, all right, we're going to have her as Miss. Well, like, whatever. So the rest of some girls gave up or whatever. I remember one of the girls, she's like, do you think you have a chance to win? I was like, listen, it's all up in the air. Just because they say they want her to win don't mean she's going to win. I ended up coming first runner-up, and for that fact, I was like, I really felt like I won because it really was kind of rigged for her. And she was like one of them, you know, overachiever chicks, president of like 6 organizations in one semester and like double masters, like, you know, whatever, the girl you want to hate.
A sorority chick?
I don't know if she became a sorority chick, but shout out to Kim Bosh. I'm not hating on you, girl, but I'm just joking. But yeah, so with those stats, just that alone, she was a great representative. So the fact that I came in first runner-up was kind of like, I won it because of this contest right here, because the judges saw that I was the winner. So because of that, I felt like, but it was funny, they called my name and I was like looking like, it was like, girl, get up there. I was like, oh, okay. And it killed because we had went through everything. I was like jumping. I still have yet to see that tape. So if anybody has the tape of the Miss Ebony Temple back, I don't even know what date it was. I need to see it. I still haven't seen it. But yeah, she won because everything that was going on, I was jumping and screaming because what the girls was doing in the back. And I was like, yes, Kim won. Anyway, back to you. I gave my little story. So, but yeah.
So the next thing too, let me say.
Yes, say something.
So the main thing that I took issue with was the whole force publique deal that he was trying to pass off as Moors. That was the main thing.
Yes.
So when I had debunked that, I felt like the debate was over at that point. But his subscribers was like, kill him, not in those words, but just kind of.
Well, yes, and that's
what was on me. So and then the secondary issue was him trying to perpetuate this thing where he was saying that us saying that we're Moors, we're saying that we want to be pale Arabs.
Okay.
And when we reject the black branding, he was saying that we're not what so-called black people. That's wrong. For one, the term Moor is older than the Johnny-come-lately pale Arab in the East right now.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two.
You go back to Shakespeare. When you say Moor, you meant black.
Thank you, my dear sister. And well, we don't mean black, but the people who are classed as Moor are those who are classed as black today. And I'm going to touch more on that. But when we reject the black branding, and I have to say this again because I mentioned it earlier. We're not rejecting our people. We're rejecting the brand that the European put on our people all over the planet to take their identity away and their heritage and their culture and their birthrights. So that's what we're rejecting. We're not rejecting our people. So it was those two things that I had an issue with him. The forced public Congo stuff and his whole thing where he's purposely trying to muddy the waters and cause division between our people that identify with black and those of us in the more science temple. Because I'm grassroots on the ground and I'm in the trenches too. Like I don't get treated any better because I wear this crown and I reject the black tag. I get treated the same way as Joey from up the way who says that he's a black man. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the whole conversation with some guys. So, yeah.
No, and it was really great that because I've seen that around where you'll say, oh, well, the Moors were actually enslaving the Africans. Mm-hmm. And they always say, and obviously that's a vastly different time, vastly different world. I mean, just within the last 50 years is a different world. So you can't even imagine the different thought processes and stuff that were going on at that time. But
we was always at war with each other.
Like, that's true. Yeah.
Some of these guys, they say that they're scholars, but then they have these romanticized ideas like we ain't do nothing wrong in the history and we was just living in harmony with each other. The stuff that you see us doing now, sister, in these inner cities, fighting and shooting and killing and kidnapping, we was doing it then. Mm-hmm. So in saying that, what I'm saying is you had those of our people from different groups in ancient times doing devilishment, doing wrong. And you had those that was doing good. But for some reason, some of these guys, when they want to talk about the Moors, they want to talk about
just being
the dirty Moors.
Yeah.
But you have Moors who would go on voyages and trade the pale slaves that they didn't capture for their own and trade. You have Moors that would enslave Europeans. You have Moors that would fight with different other melanated peoples and enslave them. That happened, but that's not the only thing that happened. It's the history's vast.
Yeah.
So that's my gripe with Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, no, and that's true. I mean, it's just the same thing of, for so long, all they would do is all these slave movies, right?
Facts.
And here comes the 7-Day Slave. It's like, wow, that's a whole different take. You know what I mean? And then you'll see where they'll have some movies that's talking about how the slave owner actually married one of his slave women and made her, then you talk about Brazil and De Silva, Chica De Silva, and different things like that. So it's not just one truth.
Thank you.
And that's the biggest thing. And because a picture can tell 1,000 words or stories, even it's hard. People can use that as propaganda to basically use that as a supporting alternative fact for their thoughts and biases.
Right, sure.
And with that becomes a problem. And that's why moving into this age of technology where now you can't go back to a book that will never change once it's printed, that how much more or how many more times, which those will be millions of times, but how much more false information will be projected to us. Even with this, because with the pandemic and all the rabbit holes I went through, and now seeing what's being pushed to me, also watching people, it's like literally when you speak to them, you could tell what they're watching.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And then you could tell how deep that they're looking. You can't tell me you're not looking because you're not presenting any facts. You know what I mean? That's all I'm asking. Do you really know why you're making this choice? And even with some of my educated friends,
facts.
Yeah, they have factual opinions, but they're not facts.
I got
you know what I mean? What your viewpoint and stuff is, which I still respect. And at least you can articulate why you're making that decision. But some people, sometimes I'm just like, listen, I just want to talk. All these people yelling and screaming, okay, because I'm not supposed to use certain words, but
use profanity.
Profanity or whatever. But there's different black people with different viewpoints. Sure. But then these different black people are saying that they're for black people. Okay, so why don't I just check them out just to see what they're saying instead of just writing them off? Because there may be some truth to it. But I think a lot of times what happens, I think because I went to school for communications, also being within entertainment, you realize sometimes you have to have a little bit of controversy, a little bit of salaciousness, a little bit of scandal, a little bit of um, exaggeration for people to pay attention, to get them to move in the direction that you want them to go. And hopefully when they get down to that, hopefully they'll use cognitive or comprehensive thinking to be able to decipher between kind of what's true, what's not, and or at least try to find the facts so that you can kind of navigate through anything that you might find.
Yeah, well, let me say this about it. Very good points that you raised. And I think it's a thing where like we have to look and see what we're up against. You have to know your audience first and foremost. You ever hear the phrase, you can't cast pearls to swine?
Yeah.
Or you can't irrigate the desert because it's barren land, right? The land's not fertile. So I'm saying that what I'm saying is you can only really break bread with people or hold parliament with certain ones that kind of have the background already. Because if you don't have the background, I mean, like, look at what we're up against. We're up against this music, this other stuff in popular culture, shows like Power, the football game, the basketball game. This is what our people are into. They're not, for the most part, the multitudes are not into these things that we're discussing.
Oh, listen.
So
I'm talking to them like loving him. I don't even ask you a question about that. I have no idea.
Yeah. So when you're talking to them about some of these things, you might as well be speaking Korean to them.
Yes.
And you sound crazy because they never heard some of this stuff. But here's something that I wanted to say about young Pharaoh so I don't lose it. He with all of his subscribers, he does the different groups a great disservice by pushing the half-truths that he pushes. When he has a responsibility as a leader, because I see him as a leader guy for our people. He's not my leader.
Yeah.
He's a colleague to me.
Listen, you get followers, you're a leader of somebody. Yeah. So, okay.
So when he's pushing these half-truths, when I know that he knows better, I think that doesn't help our community because the ultimate goal is understanding. We want to bring understanding. We want to bring the whole divine truth, and we want to give them reasons why. Why does this group say that? Why do they say that they're against this, they're for this, and you push this? And this is the finish line. People want answers. And I think when you have these guys that purposely misinterpret the truth or purposely distort the facts, tell half-truths, and even sometimes outright lies. I'm not saying Pharaoh's a liar, but this is where the problem comes in at. Because I've had West African brothers from the continent who have immigrated here hit me up in my DM. Like, yo, what's up with the Moors? Y'all don't like us? And I got to have a whole hour dialogue with them and tell them how much that we love them. I don't like. How would it benefit me for me to be at odds with you over what? Cultural differences? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So to me, be my way, and to you, be yours. But here's why we as Moors say what we say. So that's where I take it. So.
No, and that's great. Especially with social media is bringing a lot of countries and nations, and especially with our people, designers. I see it with entertainment and stuff like that, bringing us together. Yeah. And then also because everybody holds a phone, you can kind of see what their world looks like outside of what they've been trying to push to us for so long.
At your fingertips now. It's no excuse now.
Anytime somebody tells you something, at least Google it. Yeah. But you're not saying that you're going to find the best meaning or explanation for what you're looking at, but at least you're looking it up so that you can have a discussion and a dispute about it. But with that said, this is the Persia Sound Show on Uptown Radio, WJY and 98.5 FM, and I'm here with Frederick Jones L. Yeah. And tell them where they can find you at.
Sure. So you can find me on Facebook. My Facebook page is my appellation, Frederick Jones Eel. So that's Frederick, a space, Jones, Jones, space, capital E, lowercase l. And my Instagram handle is Moorish Adept. So that's Moorish, MOORISH, underscore, I think that's what that is, and Adept. So that's ADEPT. If I'm saying that right. So. All
right. Well, either way, you can go to Persia Sound, at Persia Sound, anything. Facebook. Actually, I'm off of Facebook now. Instagram, Twitter. You can follow me there. All right, and we out. Okay.
All right.
Yes, thank you. So we made it through this. Let me get off
Yeah.
YouTube now.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you coming, so at least I can ask some questions. But it seems like you guys, y'all so you don't even know which temple to join if I was to join, you know?
So I'll say this: don't join the temple. Just study the teachings,
Yes.
and it'll guide you where you need to be. Don't worry about the leader. I'm the leader guy, and you need to be with me. Don't fall for that, because they'll try that. Some of these guys will try that.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep the membership up. I know you got to pay dues, right?
Facts. You got to pay dues.
Exactly.
And per capita tax. I think some temples do that. My temple doesn't do that.
Oh, okay. Bye. All right.
Yeah. But the more means black thing, because I think you had mentioned that. So